collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up on the programme this week, we talk to Nicosia's mayor about the renaming of the central hall of its Polydynamo Kendron in honour of the wife of the former mayor of Nicosia.
For her willingness to give up her time to help others in need, the municipal council voted unanimously to rename this hall after her.
And we discuss, yet again, the problems faced by migrants and asylum seekers in Cyprus as winter approaches, and they're sleeping out in the cold because we apparently can't give them what it takes to get a roof over their heads.
When the people apply for emergency money, it takes another 3 months to examine their application, which means that you need emergency money to bridge the time until you get the emergency money.
The main hall of the Nicosia Multifunction Centre has been renamed in memory of the wife of former Nicosia Mayor Olga Demetriades. She was Olga Demetriades, and she worked tirelessly for the community in Nicosia, particularly for young people, the vulnerable and the elderly. And joining us to tell us why the centre was renamed, and indeed what it does, is Nicosia's Mayor, Konstantinos Yorgachis. Konstantinos, first of all, do tell us, for those who aren't aware this place exists, what it does.
Well, actually, it's very easy to find. It sits right on top of the Famagusta Gate, on the Venetian walls. And we take care of children after school hours for families that cannot afford to have their children somewhere else until they finish work. It's extremely important for low-wage families, low-income families, but more importantly, it aids single women and allows them to stay at work for the duration of the day. We also take care of the elderly until approximately 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock.
Give them a bit of company and so on.
Well, actually, they come here, they do various exercises, either physical or they sing, they read. They do, surprisingly, a lot with social media, by themselves, I mean. They have amazing dexterity with social media. You'll be amazed. They talk to relatives in Australia or in the United States, time permitting, of course.
So you've got free Wi-Fi here?
Of course.
And
also during the very hot summer period, the air conditioning allows them to cool off a little bit.
Yes, because a lot of them, particularly in the older houses, they don't have proper heating and cooling.
Very recent in years. I mean, part of the multifunctional center deals also with legal immigrants, trying to teach them Greek or even teach them their own customs and languages. For example, there's a lot of Chinese children that have been born in Cyprus. And other than Greek, we have Chinese teachers teaching them their own language.
And I think you also teach the Cypriot kids here about the other cultures as well.
We in the municipality of Nicosia believe strongly, and I hope people understand this, that democracy is either for everybody or for nobody. So we try to teach that you need to allow for all differences in human beings and accept them.
Let's come to the renaming in memory of a very dear friend of mine, Olga Demetriades. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, first of all, I know being the mayor, I should say something about the municipal council, which of course voted unanimously to rename the hall. But it's also personal. I knew Olga since I was a kid. Many people might not know this, but Mr. Lelos Demetriades was the best man of Tassos and Fotini, my mother and stepfather. So I knew them from a very, very early age, as I did their sons Achilleas and I say Kostis, but now it's Konstantinos. But we all knew him when we were growing up as Kostis. So I have a personal connection, and I knew from early on how much she strived to help people. And the bottom line is this: she always tried to help people. You are a witness, and you invited me several times at the Camps for Kids area and effort that she was so involved, and she was so passionate on causes. For these reasons, for her willingness to give up her time to help others in need, the Municipal Council voted unanimously to rename this hall after her.
Well, it's a wonderful memorial to Olga Demetriades, and that is Nicosia Mayor Konstantinos Yorkagis talking about the renaming ceremony of the central hall at what is known as the Polydynamo Kendron on top of the walls in Old Nicosia.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
We're approaching winter. There's no doubt that the temperature has changed. It means that mornings and evenings are very much colder than, of course, they are during the summer, which is fine. We're probably looking forward to a little bit of cool weather. But there are some people who aren't. And they're the refugees who have been sleeping out in our parks because the funding that they're given by the government is not sufficient for them to rent accommodation. It includes children, it includes sick people, elderly people, and frankly, it's a disgrace. So I've asked Doros Polikarpou from Action for Equality, Support and Anti-Racism, or KISA as it's known in Greek, to come and explain to me what the problems are and why it is that we can't fulfil our obligations to our refugees. Doros, tell us how long this has been going on and what can be done about it, because sleeping out in the open in winter, and apparently I've spoken to some of the charities dealing with these people, they don't even have blankets.
Well, one factor is what you mentioned, the winter. I mean, it's welcome. We need the winter, we need the rain, we need in this country a lot. But we need to think about the people also, that they are able to adapt to these weather conditions. And unfortunately, quite correctly how you describe it, refugees right now who arrive in the country, there is not the necessary adequate infrastructure in order to respond to their basic needs and, of course, to fulfill our obligations, because it's our obligations to offer them dignifying conditions, living conditions until we examine their applications and we decide whether we want to give them international protection or not.
So we're talking about asylum seekers, then I was wrong to call them refugees?
I think it's correct. It's correct. You know, these are legal terms. The process to get recognition or international protection is an administrative process. A refugee is somebody who leaves its own country because of the circumstances that force this person or the whole family, either because they are threatened, they face circumstances that force them for their own protection or for the protection of their family to leave the country. So it's quite correct to call these people from the moment they feel that I have to leave my country and seek refuge to another country, they are refugees. Now, at the beginning, the legal term for their status, they are asylum-seeking people because they applied and their applications are not examined and approved. And at the end, when their applications are approved, they are considered as recognized refugees which means that the government is like accreditation of your qualifications. Let's say from the point of view, it's not that you don't have before these qualifications, but you have an authority that comes and recognizes that what you say, you are a refugee, we examine this and we approve your protection.
So let's just clarify what a refugee, that's a recognised refugee, is entitled to, and what an asylum seeker is entitled to. Is it the same?
No, it's not the same. Well, somebody who has protection is entitled to minimum income. The minimum income, the epsilon, known in Cyprus. The problem we have there is, first of all, when the people apply for the epsilon, it takes 5 months.
We're talking about the GMI, Guaranteed Minimum Income.
Guaranteed Minimum Income. It takes 5 months until they examine the application. Now, if you are a Cypriot, not always, to be honest, not all the Cypriots, they have now a social network around them to support them until they get the necessary support by the minimum income scheme. But the majority they do. They can survive until they can get the support of the government. Refugees who enter this system, they need immediately support. Theoretically, they say that you can apply for emergency money while your application is examined for the epsilon. Now, the reality doesn't work because when the people apply for emergency money, it takes another 3 months to examine their application, which means that you need emergency money to bridge the time until you get the emergency money.
And what do these people do if they've come here presumably having paid traffickers a lot of money to get here? Many of them have sold their houses, done whatever else. They may have, I don't know, a couple of €100 in their pocket when they arrive, but that's not going to go very far over 3 months.
The vast majority, they don't have this money. They cannot travel with a lot of money in their pocket because they are in danger if other people who don't have any money or the traffickers realize that they have cash on them, they will never arrive in Cyprus with the cash money. So the refugees, they arrive in Cyprus usually without money. This is our experience. It's very rare that we have refugees. So that not all the refugees are very poor. We should take this in consideration. We have refugees that they have money, but then it takes time for them to find ways, if they manage, to bring money from their countries that they have. It's not an easy task because people who are persecuted, it's not easy to apply to transfer your money from one country to the other. So it's very difficult. So we need to understand that these people usually, even if they have money in their country, they can't access use it, this money. But again, these are the refugees who are already in the country because to examine the application it takes at least 6 months. So these people, they are already in the country. And it's a different and less difficult situation than asylum seekers. Asylum seekers, they arrive in the country immediately. The first day they arrive, they need access to healthcare. Some of them, they went through a very difficult time until journey, and they need medical treatment. They need accommodation. They need food. They need the necessary for their babies. They need baby milks. They need whatever children need, medicines or whatever is an absolute priority. We said several times that we don't have the infrastructure that can properly respond to this situation. Because
let's just stop there. A lot of the people who come by boat were taken originally to Kokinotremithia, which is the tented camp on the outskirts of Nicosia. How long do they stay there? Because the reception centre at Kofinu is full, I'm told, is full to overflowing. So do these people stay in the tents until their applications are processed?
Well, there is a problem there. First of all, they don't easily give access. Comparing to Kofinu, that is an open centre, Kokinotremithia is a difficult situation because they don't allow NGOs freely to enter and advise the people on how to deal with the situation. They mislead them with this information. They tell them that according to the law, you can exit the camp, you find accommodation, and you apply for reception conditions, and then they will pay your rent. The people don't know that they are going to get €100. So they leave the camp, because who wants to stay in a tent in a camp? They leave the camp and they believe on this way that they will find accommodation and then they will get money to pay their accommodation, they will have money to feed their children. Once they leave the camp, they cannot return back in Kokinotremithia. So this is how the people leave Kokinotremithia, for example. Instead of doing a proper preparation and find the solution before the people move out of Kokinotremithia, they encourage them to leave Kokinotremithia because they want to free the space as soon as possible. It's emergency place, the Kokinotremithia.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that we're tricking them.
We are tricking them. It's not only there that we are tricking them. Unfortunately, we have a system that on the paper gives the impression that we are able to receive and accommodate their needs. But it's only on the paper. In reality, and we know this, and the authorities know this, but they don't take. This is the problem. There is no perfect system. I know that all the systems, they need to be improved. But here we have chronic problems that the authorities don't want to face. We have made suggestions for this. What we described, for example, you need to help the people to find accommodation and then be able immediately to pay their rent. How can an asylum seeker with 3 children and a wife, or a family of 4, get €200? If they are lucky, they get €200 on the hand, and they tell them find accommodation. How can you pay a flat guarantee 2 months in advance, minimum 1 month, and the rent is the minimum rent you get for a flat with 2 bedrooms is more than 500, 600, 700 euro in Nicosia nowadays. So if you are lucky, you will get it 550, 600 euro, but outside Nicosia, not in Nicosia, which creates other problems there because the coupons,
the food coupons,
the food coupons,
can
for
only
example,
be spent in some very small shops in Nicosia.
So how do other people can arrive in Nicosia and buy food and return back and all this stuff? They don't have bus cards. We told them that asylum seekers, that you should have the right to get a monthly bus card by the government. If they don't get cash money, and they don't get cash money to buy a card because they get 20 euro, something like 20, 30 euro pocket money. You cannot spend this pocket money to buy a monthly card and then you don't have 1 cent for a whole month to buy water or to buy anything else. This is the reality. So we made suggestions. Our suggestions was to create a reception authority. Let's get this, for example, now. As we said at the beginning, one problem is the winter. The second problem is that we have increased numbers of refugees who arrive now in the country.
Yes, but we also have the people who are coming over the green line, the buffer zone, from the north. And I heard, do correct me if it's wrong, that they were not treated the same as the people who came by boat. Do they, if they're found wandering in Astromeritis or somewhere, are they taken to Kokinotremithia?
No.
Or, no, you see, they're not. They're treated differently. So what happens to those people?
Well,
they just go straight on to the, here's 200 euros, go away and put your application in.
But this is coming back again. This is why, because there is no coordination between the authorities. Kokinotremithia is under the Civil Defense Department. They run this place and nobody else can bring people to this place. So the civil defense is the one who runs the rescue operations, coordinates the rescue operations.
But surely the police, if they find people who have come over the green line illegally, can coordinate with the civil defense.
There is no coordination mechanism. It's impossible because civil defense runs this center. It means that from the moment they get an alarm that there is a boat coming, they immediately initiate their rescue operation. They call their volunteers and they run with the time to open the reception center in order to get the people from when they arrive with the boat to bring them to the reception center. But there is, at the moment, the people are found on the street. This center might be closed or there is no agreement between the police or anybody else if there is space there to bring additional refugees.
So what happens to them?
What happens to them, they take them to the police station, they take their details, and then they tell them the story again, what we said before, that it doesn't work. Tomorrow, you will go to the welfare to apply for reception conditions. So the police got rid of them. They know, the police, very well that tomorrow they will not get coupons. And tomorrow they will be on the street. But this is what they tell them. They did their job, they got rid of them. The NGOs, when the people arrive, we are asked, the first step we need to do is to bring the people to the immigration to apply for asylum if they say we want to apply for asylum. Now, we take them to the immigration to apply for asylum, and then the immigration complains that they don't have the infrastructure to receive these applications, and they give them an appointment in 2 months. Come again in 2 months to apply for asylum. But they don't have a paper in the hand so that they can go the next day to the welfare and say, we already went to the immigration and we started the process to apply for asylum. So this 1.5 months, they are without papers in the country. They can get arrested at any moment. They don't have access to health care. Their children. They cannot go to school. They don't have money to eat.
Doros, what has to be done?
It's very simple. We have the NGOs. We have the Red Cross. We have IOM. We have the various departments of the government that they are related to this issue. They need to bring these people together, create a coordinating body, and discuss the ways we are going to receive these people, who is doing what, and then how we can help them from this reception center in a very fast way to find their place in the various communities and work together. There is no other way, because we know the administration, how difficult it is to communicate and coordinate between them. The police officer has to write to the chief of police through the whatever district police responsible, the Nicosia police, chief of police, go to the headquarters. From the headquarters will go to the Ministry of Justice. From Ministry of Justice will go to the Ministry of Labour. From Ministry of Labour will go to the head of the welfare. And from the head of the welfare will go to the district office and then to the local welfare office. There are no parallel structures between the officers to take such decisions. They are not allowed. This is the administration, this is the public services, and this is the bureaucracy we have.
All right, let me ask you this. We receive considerable sums of money from the European Union, and they undertook, when there was a spike in arrivals earlier this year, to pay more for people, for streamlining administration, and so on and so forth. What's happened to that money?
It's another problem that we have in this country. You know, the problem that you get money, there is a lot of money. It's not only direct money for this support, also indirect money that is supposed to go to these people. At the end of the day, it's wasted to a big extent when you don't have the will to use it in a way to meet the needs of these people. I don't think that they don't understand what we suggest to the authorities. They don't want to make the system efficient in a way so that the people, they are treated with dignity and they feel that they are welcome when they arrive. Our minister said it several times in public. We do the minimum so that we don't have a problem with the Commission and the European Union, but not to give the message to the people that they are welcome in this country. So unless we change this mentality and we understand that we have an international obligation and we need to take this seriously, this obligation, and understand that we have also a moral obligation as a country that went through such a difficult situation, and we expected other countries and other nations to support us. Until now, we based our hopes on the solidarity and the support of the other countries to solve our own problems. But we are not willing as a country to do the same for other people. To really understand that these people left their country because they are in danger. You know, it's unbelievable. We have a Somali woman who is a recognized refugee. She applied to bring her 2 children that they are in a very serious danger in Somalia. They examined the application 3 years. And they answered her back that there were contradictions in your initial interview 5 years ago, and because of this we don't allow you to bring your kids to Cyprus. This gives you this is inhuman. You can imagine you have a single mother in Cyprus. She feels that I got protection and I live in a luxury now, but my children are on the street in Somalia. What kind of understanding of obligation is this if you don't understand this human dimension? Just to give you one example.
Okay, let's wrap this up by looking at what people can do, practical things that citizens who agree with what you've said can do to help those who are sleeping on park benches in this cold weather, and it's going to get a lot colder and a lot wetter. I mean, do they need tents? They need blankets? What can be done by the average citizen to help, since it seems very obvious from what you've said that the authorities have no plans to do anything whatsoever?
Well, this is at the same time a danger, because we should not give up pushing the government, our government and the authorities to take their own responsibility. We can take part in this effort voluntarily. We need a combination of the responsibility of the authorities with the solidarity of the people.
Okay, but for example,
we cannot solve the problem. I will tell you.
Hang on a second, Doris. If they're given even tents and blankets, can they at least, while the pressure's on, and it would be a terrible advertisement for Cyprus if it went globally over the news, for people sleeping in tents in the parks in the winter? Would it be illegal for them to do that?
I will tell you what will help, but we need to work together on this and build the infrastructure. We take a public space, we put up tent, and we run on our own initiative such emergency accommodation for the people. But in this way, so we organize this space so that the people have somewhere to stay, somewhere to sleep, they get food, and at the same time, on this way, we make visible the problem and increase the pressure on the government to find more appropriate solutions than this. The problem now, to give blankets to the people and sleep anywhere just to survive, it doesn't solve alone the problem.
All right, what about empty buildings? There have got to be plenty of empty buildings, and some of them, I think, are government buildings, old schools or whatever else. Why aren't those put into use?
Well, this is another good initiative. Let's spot such a place. We go and we say we take over this place and we accommodate the people as emergency until you offer them a solution. The people don't like to stay here, but it's better to sleep here and get food every day and get organized, organize their life here, than to sleep on the parks. This is another initiative. But we have to combine the effort of solidarity with the effort of pressure on the government, not to isolate these two. Otherwise, we just
let them off
prolong suffering of the people. That's it.
You let the government off the hook and it's not doing what it should do.
It's a matter of time to collapse because, for example, Caritas was doing this, but they closed their office these days. They closed their office completely because they said, we cannot receive any more people. We don't have the capacity to give them not even a blanket to sleep. And they closed the office because they cannot cope with it. So this is when you take the responsibility of the government, but the government does not support you to do this.
Very depressing. We've been talking to Doros Polikarpou from Action for Equality, Support and Anti-Racism about the problem facing many of the asylum seekers and refugees on our lovely island, sleeping out in the open as winter approaches. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.